Welcome back to the deep dive. So if you're like so many of us, you've probably stared into that just overwhelming vastness of streaming
Oh,
services,
the endless scroll.
the endless scroll, and you're worried, is this commitment actually going to pay off? Is there an anime title that actually sticks the landing, that gives me real narrative closure? If that's you, then this deep dive is precisely what you need.
Hmm.
Our mission today is really all about delivering that shortcut to satisfaction. We've we've extracted the absolute essential nuggets of insight from sources analyzing 10 specific anime series.
And these are the ones that are universally praised.
Exactly, because their conclusions genuinely resonate.
Yeah.
Just, they stick with you long after the credits have finished rolling. We are here to separate the forgettable cliffhangers from the profound finales.
And we absolutely have to define what a satisfying conclusion even means here, because the sources are all on the same page. It rarely, if ever, means a simple happy ending.
Right, not a happily ever after situation.
Not at all. What makes these finales work is the emotional weight and the integrity of the storytelling. Whether that comes from a heart-wrenching, necessary sacrifice or a sudden crushing realization about the world. That feeling of an earned finality is what makes a good show great.
So how are we going to tackle all 10 of these?
To manage it, we've grouped them by the core themes that make their endings so memorable. We'll be focusing first on narratives defined by massive, morally complex sacrifices, then we'll get into the crushing weight of time, and finally, profound internal transformations.
Okay, let's jump right in. So, series where the climax centers around these monumental sacrifices or intense moral quandaries, usually set against dystopian chaos or conflict.
And our first example is a perfect one. The neon-drenched dystopia of Akudama Drive.
Ah, yes.
The sources repeatedly highlight how this series, despite all its frenetic energy and almost chaotic, surreal imagery, delivers an ending that is so focused and deeply emotional, it's a really difficult balance to strike.
I think the reason it works so well is that the climax isn't some grand save-the-world plot. It's about protecting two small, innocent people.
Exactly. The protagonists, Swindler and Courier, they shift from operating purely out of self-interest to this massive, altruistic final act for the siblings. It's such a specific personal sacrifice.
And the visual storytelling.
Oh, it's genius. The narrative genius, according to the sources, is in that visual contrast. The whole series has this explosive, vivid color palette, but the final desperate struggle, Courier's intense showdown against those relentless, faceless drones.
It's just raw action.
It's stripped down to raw, determined action. And Swindler's fate is just as powerful. It shows her complete transformation from the scared, accidental criminal she was at the start.
What about that final lingering image, though? The one that defines the whole thematic question. I'm talking about the fate beyond the tunnel.
That image is the perfect final frame. It's such a powerful visual metaphor. The characters have done everything they can to push these children toward the light, this, theoretical hope of a future.
But we never actually see it.
You're never given full clarity on what lies past that barrier. And the satisfaction comes not from the outcome, but from witnessing the protagonists choose hope over their own despair. They fulfill their chaotic yet ultimately humanitarian mission.
Okay, so moving from the frenetic to the more somber, let's talk about 8686. This series has a poignant narrative, very reminiscent of classic anti-war literature.
For sure. It deals a lot with dehumanization and systemic conflict. The strength of its conclusion is really in its structural parallelism. The tension builds around the presumed inevitable loss of Shiny Newson and his comrades.
The Spearhead Squadron.
Right. They're continually fighting in these impossible battles. The show leads you, the viewer, to believe that a tragedy is just unavoidable. It really leans into the bleakness of their reality.
But then the narrative gives you this incredible earned twist of redemption. You're left teetering on the brink of despair after the climax, thinking the heroes are gone, and then it shifts.
And the sources specifically praise the pacing of that shift. It isn't some sudden miracle, it's a gradual emotional realization that the survivors have chosen to keep fighting together. The crucial detail is their reunion with their ally, Lena.
And it doesn't happen in a peaceful, safe zone.
No, it happens right there on the active battlefield.
That battlefield reunion is so key. It signifies they chose to continue their fight, not in isolation, but by relying on that human connection, refusing to let the cycles of conflict just erase who they are. It's bittersweet. But it resolves that core emotional conflict of isolation.
Precisely. It resolves the character arc without resolving the political conflict, which is why it feels so maturely handled. Now, let's look at a series that uses deception to achieve a kind of philosophical depth. Mazinger Edition Z.
Okay, this series completely twists the epic battle trope. The climax looks triumphant. You have Baron Ashura and Kabuto Koji saving the world in this massive, definitive victory. But that success is immediately, violently unraveled.
And what's fascinating is that the sources really focus on the audacity of the writing. The series reveals that the hero's saving action was built on a monumental, tragic deception. It involves all these secrets and compromises that it profoundly affects their understanding of their own past.
Wait, hold on. Doesn't revealing that kind of betrayal and deception, doesn't it undermine the entire emotional investment we had in their triumph up to that point? How does that count as a satisfying ending?
That is a great question. And the sources argue that the deception doesn't undermine the heroism, it redefines it. By having the victory collapse into moral ambiguity, the series turns a giant robot show into a philosophical exercise.
Okay.
It forces the characters to deal with responsibility, not just power. The satisfaction comes from watching the heroes realize that true existence isn't about crushing the enemy, it's about confronting the devastating weight of truth and choice. It elevates the conflict from simple good versus evil to something way more complex.
That is a hefty thematic lift, using deception as a vehicle for growth. Okay, let's transition. The sacrifice in Mazinger was tied to historical secrets. Let's talk about series where history time itself is the central emotional burden.
Yes, these are the endings that hit hard because the characters are struggling against eternity itself.
And the quintessential example here has to be Gunbuster.
Oh, without a doubt. A monumental Gainax Odyssey. This is where the physics of time dilation becomes the source of profound heartbreak. The series basically asks, what is the cost of absolute victory?
And the cost is massive. Noriko and Kazumi's final mission, it spans generations because of relativistic travel. So their personal sacrifice isn't dead. It's the loss of every meaningful connection they had on Earth.
And the sources praise the masterful use of visual language in that final episode. To evoke nostalgia and the sheer passage of time, the animation shifts dramatically. It goes from the vivid, dynamic colors of the space battles to this stark, high-contrast black and white.
It's a deliberate nod,
Right.
to old sci-fi.
Exactly. A nod to retro sci-fi and classic anime, making you feel the distance the characters have traveled, both physically and culturally.
And the payoff is just. It's devastatingly effective. When Noriko and Kazumi finally return to an Earth that's been transformed by 12 millennia, the sources describe that drop-dead moment.
When humanity greets them with that glowing, massive welcome message.
Yes, welcome, homie.
With the reversed E, that single visual detail is everything. It shows that while civilization has continued, maybe even changed its alphabet, the core emotional need for connection and memory endures. That powerful blend of overwhelming nostalgia, the heavy burden of their sacrifice, and that sweet, earned moment of recognition, it provides such an immense sense of closure.
Shifting gears completely. Away from starships, let's look at the Heist story. It deals with historical tragedy and impermanence through the fate of the Taira clan in ancient Japan. How does that context provide closure?
Here, the weight of time is all about legacy and loss. The resolution is much quieter, more philosophical. It centers on Tokuko, who has lost everything, just striving to find some meaning in her existence amidst this catastrophic loss. The narrative focus shifts from the grand scope of the war to one individual's attempt to reconcile tragedy.
And this is where the philosophy really pays off, primarily through Biwa, the storyteller.
Exactly. Biwa's character is key. She embodies the idea that every ending is merely a prelude to another beginning, the Buddhist concept of mujo, or impermanence. The series doesn't offer victory, it offers acceptance. The satisfying part is the deep philosophical closure that comes from realizing the Taira clan's story endures because it is told, not because they were victorious.
So the memory and storytelling itself provides the meaning.
That's it. It validates everything in the face of chaos.
That is a beautiful way to link philosophy and narrative. Okay, let's transition into our third group. Endings where the ultimate revolutionary act or sacrifice is deeply personal. It redefines destiny and existence itself.
And we have to begin with Puella Magi, Madoka Magica.
Of course.
This show is rightly famous as an emotional roller coaster that completely deconstructs the conventional magical girl trope by plunging it into despair and complex existential dread.
The sources are very clear that the success of the ending is in how the writer, Jen Iribuchi, structurally breaks the genre only to rebuild it. Madoka's ultimate sacrifice isn't just self-immolation, it's a systemic transformation.
It is. She doesn't just save the city. She literally rearranges the laws of physics and causality for magical girls across all of time and space. Her wish is a universal solution, but it's paid for by the specific price of her existence being erased from the linear history of her friends.
Which creates that uniquely bittersweet resolution.
Right, where true friendship endures, even if it morphs into different, maybe unrecognized forms, like Homura's lonely fight that continues.
So the core message is about the persistence of purpose, even if the person who initiated it is gone. The fight against despair continues, but the rules have changed forever.
Now, for something completely different, the ethereal journey of Sonny Boy. The final scene is an escape from an alternate reality. The sources highlight that this series' success really hinges on its breathtaking, often strange visual metaphors.
The imagery is absolutely key. Nagar and Mizuho are venturing through these incredible drifting landscapes, alternate dimensions, and confronting their pasts and the terrifying void of choice. It's an intellectual puzzle, really.
The satisfaction in the Sonny Boy conclusion is that it's not about explaining all the strange phenomena. It's about choosing to leave the metaphysical possibilities behind. The takeaway is the solidification of choice, of destiny, and the heart's resilience.
So Nagar chooses the mundane, chaotic real world.
Yes, over the infinite sterile possibilities of the drifting dimensions. And that choice of normalcy, is the ultimate act of growth and self-determination.
And we absolutely cannot discuss internal revolution without bringing up revolutionary girl Utena. I mean, this ending is boundary-pushing, complex, highly symbolic. It's not about saving a kingdom, but breaking an entire ideological system.
Oh, the source material dives so deep into the symbolism here. The climax has Utena challenging the very structure that dictates her role, the whole prince trope. We see Anthe's poignant plea for liberation, and it's contrasted so sharply with Utena's steadfast refusal to just accept the script.
Give us a specific nugget of symbolism from that ending that makes it so successful.
It's the metaphor of the elevator and the coffin. The entire dual arena, which represents this rigged system of power and expectation, literally collapses around them. Utena refuses to ride the elevator that Anthe offers her, insisting that real change has to destroy the entire structure.
So she stays inside.
Her final act is one of complete self-sacrifice within that collapse. She chooses to break the system from the inside rather than simply escaping it. The implication is crystal clear. Revolutionary acts demand total courage and internal erasure for the sake of another's destiny.
That is powerful and a great note to transition on. Okay, finally, let's move to a theme that is maybe lighter in tone but no less impactful. The transcendence of competition and the cementing of personal bonds.
These conclusions prove that the journey is often greater than the destination.
Which brings us directly to Ping Pong the Animation.
It does. The narrative heart is explicitly the friendship and rivalry between the two central players, Smile and Pico. The finale doesn't rely on epic world building. It relies completely on earned character development.
And the sources highlight that their relationship, which is full of all these complexities and competitive jealousy, it culminates not just in a final match, but in a symbolic, nail-biting encounter where all their past memories and shared passion just intertwine with every single serve.
What makes this ending so satisfying is that the focus shifts entirely from the scoreboard to the personal development of the players. The finale just paints this canvas where nostalgia and joy collide. It demonstrates that the essence of the game transcends mere competition.
It's about the journey.
It's fundamentally about the journey, the pursuit of excellence, and the unbreakable bonds formed along the way. We see them years later, still connected, still playing, but in entirely new roles.
And wrapping up our list, we have Turn a Gundam. This conclusion manages to evoke both this deep melancholy and a strong sense of hope, often helped by the sheer beauty of Yoko Kanno's musical score.
The music is incredible. The success of this Gundam finale is its refusal to rely on the typical military victory fanfare. Instead, the conclusion shows characters like Loran forging their own paths by embracing peace and reconciliation. What the sources praise is the visual metaphor of the dark history, all the remnants of previous wars, literally returning to the earth like it's melting back into the landscape.
So the ending reflects the deeper complexities of life itself, showing that the ultimate goal isn't triumph, but integration. Finding peace by becoming a civilian, by becoming part of the natural world. It's a beautifully quiet and mature resolution for a mecha franchise.
It really is.
Okay, let's unpack this wealth of knowledge. When we connect the dots across these 10 incredibly diverse series, from historical epics to cosmic sci-fi, the overarching thematic connections are, well, they're undeniable. The profound emotional weight of choice, the necessity of sacrifice, and the raw resilience required to move forward after a great loss.
And if we connect this back to you, the learner, these series are so highly recommended because they provide a very specific and I think rare type of satisfaction, a sense of philosophical closure. They ask and they attempt to answer fundamental questions about responsibility, choice, and what truly endures in the face of oblivion.
The source material shows us that hope and redemption rarely come easy. They seem to arise from two distinct yet powerful paths, either through the acceptance of impermanence and the continuation of storytelling, like we saw with Takuko in the Heike story.
Or through a monumental, life-altering sacrifice, which we saw with the Madoka or Swindler.
Right. But what persistently validates even the bleakest struggles in all these narratives is the power of human connection.
That's the through line. Whether it's the friendship that transcends competition in ping pong, or that single, glowing, welcome home message after 12 millennia in Gunbuster connection, is the knowledge nugget that sustains the meaning of sacrifice.
So we want to leave you with this final thought.
Yeah.
What narratives in your own life have stuck with you? Not because they ended happily, but because they ended meaningfully. This concept of earned closure is the lens through which you can explore the rest of your viewing queue.